Today, we're looking at a blue ink by Kaweco Royal Blue. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps in the description down below, so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here, I do fountain pen ink reviews every single day, so I would invite you to subscribe. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Lamy All-Star with a broad nib, wrote with it for a day, and used it to take my notes for this video. In order to have some standardization, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper in the first writing samples, although there is an additional writing sample with different papers later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in cartridge form, and they come in boxes like this with cartridges like this, but to put them into a pen like this, I wind up decanting them in, then filling the pens. To keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 12 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 16 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we didn't get any. Tomoe River, with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, it has halo the entire way through it. The entire thing is traced. So that's a very interesting. No, lost my place, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather, no spread, halo the entire way through. No sheen, no shade, 19 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather, no spread, halo the entire way through. No sheen, no shade, 29 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we didn't get it. And Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 14 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer spots of shading through the writing with 17 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both show us no color variation, although the medium does give us some. I agree with Vita that there's a lot to be learned by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see that it goes from lighter, pushing its way all the way up to darker. This is a true blue, prime blue, fantastic. Now the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water, and there is a very definite line forming at the bottom where the ink is bonding with the filter paper. It then pushes up almost creating some water separation between what is bonded and what is moving, and then the rest is moving as you would expect, but we do think there could be some resistance with this. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I would not use this in a note-taking situation because there's an extreme amount of blowout that's going on. Now, water's lifting all of the darkest tones, but leaving some of those darker or lighter tones like what we're seeing on the second chromatography. Pen flush is definitely breaking down this ink. You're starting to see the white of the paper coming through. However, water is all that it took for me to get it out of my pen. The 1/3 bleach solution, which I didn't need, completely obliterates it. I test viscosity or flow with a tilt test that I'll link the video on how I do that. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Kaweco's Royal Blue has a viscosity of 3.25, making this a dry ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average those, and what I found is the average dry time is 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Kaweco's Royal Blue has an average dry time of 18 seconds, which is normal. Instead of finding inks that look like Kaweco's Royal Blue, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I wanted a nice brown, and I chose Diamine Raw Sienna. The second writing sample is done on TWSBI and moleskin paper. Here we're looking at TWSBI notebook paper. Now we get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 12 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 15 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both aren't really showing any color variation, and we didn't get any. And moleskine, moleskin notebooks. Now we do get some bleeding, quite a bit of bleeding that occurs with the medium, a little bit with the extra fine. If you're using an extra fine, or especially a dry extra fine, you're probably not going to bleed through and you can use the back of the page with no problem. Medium, on the other hand, you're probably not using the back of the page, you're just not contaminating the next page. Now the medium has a bunch of feathering all over it. Tiny feathers, that's to be expected here. No spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. You can read everything that's there. The extra fine does have tiny feathers that are occurring. However, it's not so distracting that you can't read it. And again, this is a pocket-sized notebook to just get your thoughts down on paper before you lose them. 6 seconds to dry. Scrubby shows no color variation, and we didn't have any, and that is all that I have for the writing samples. So what do I think of Kaweco's Royal Blue? There can be a little bit of tone variation depending on the pen you put it into, and you can get some shading from time to time on this ink. It's a very solid performing blue. I enjoy it in cartridge. I don't think I would enjoy it in bottle. So it to me is one of those inks that's very situational. It's very convenient to use, and I enjoy it as a blue for that. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? I found a wet broad to really put down a nice darker blue that I find appealing, which is nice because I don't normally go for darker blues. If you've made it this far and you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I'm going to remind you to subscribe. Thanks for watching.